Many people go through life feeling like they're simply treading water. They wake up, go to work, pay bills, and repeat the cycle. There's a rhythm to it, but often no melody, just existence. This condition, known as survival mode, is where countless people find themselves stuck. But what if life was meant to be more than just getting through the day? What if you were created not just to survive, but to live significantly? To move from survival to significance is not merely about achieving wealth, status, or recognition. It's about aligning your life with a deeper purpose and impact that outlives you. It's about knowing why you're here and living in a way that leaves a lasting imprint, not just on your life, but on others. Survival is our most basic instinct. It kicks in when we feel threatened or overwhelmed. In modern life, this can be less about physical danger and more about emotional, financial, or social pressures. People in survival mode often feel drained, anxious, reactive, and unfulfilled. Their decisions are usually guided by necessity rather than vision. There's no time for reflection, growth, or higher purpose, only enough to get by. Living in survival mode for prolonged periods creates a kind of numbness. Dreams shrink, passion fades, and people become spectators in their own stories. They live for the weekend, tolerate mediocrity, and defer joy to someday. Significance, by contrast, is about intentional living. It's choosing to engage with life rather than avoid it. It's about discovering your unique gifts and leveraging them, not just for personal gain, but for the benefit of others. Significance is marked by clarity of purpose, fulfillment, generosity, and legacy. The shift to significance often begins with dissatisfaction. Something inside whispers, there's more to life than this. It may be triggered by a loss, a spiritual awakening, or simply the quiet realization that time is passing too quickly to waste it. But moving toward significance requires courage. It demands that we look inward and confront the truth about how we're living. It requires decisions, sometimes radical ones, to break free from the patterns that keep us stuck. A significant life has several defining characteristics, and none of them require fame or fortune. Purpose-driven people living significantly have a clear why. They know their values and what they're striving for. Their daily actions align with their bigger vision. Service-oriented. Significance always involves others. It's not just about personal success, but lifting others as you climb. Whether through mentorship, giving, teaching, or creating, people of significance make others' lives better. Authentic. These individuals are not trying to impress anyone. They live authentically, embracing their flaws and strengths. Their lives inspire not because they're perfect, but because they're real. Growth-focused. They never stop learning. Instead of becoming complacent, they push boundaries and challenge themselves to grow in character, skill, and understanding. Legacy-minded people of significance think long-term. They ask, what will I leave behind? What stories will others tell because I lived? So how do you actually make the transition from survival to significance? Awareness. First, you must recognize where you are. Are you in survival mode? Are your days reactive, monotonous, and uninspired? Acknowledge it without shame. Clarify your purpose. Ask yourself tough questions. What matters most to me? What breaks my heart? What legacy do I want to leave? You don't need all the answers now, but starting the inquiry is critical. Take ownership. Stop waiting for perfect circumstances. You have more agency than you think. Begin making small changes that reflect your values and vision. Serve others. Start where you are. Find small ways to give of yourself, your time, your wisdom, your encouragement. It's often in serving that we discover our significance. Pursue wholeness. Address the things that keep pulling you back, whether it's fear, trauma, toxic environments, or limiting beliefs. Invest in healing and growth. Surround yourself wisely. Align with people who are also pursuing meaning and growth. The people you spend time with shape your perspective and influence your journey. Acts now. Significance isn't achieved in one grand gesture, but through 1,000 small, faithful steps. Start now. Write the note. Make the call. Volunteer. Learn the skill. Take the class. Your journey doesn't begin when you feel ready. It begins when you take the first step. The path from survival to significance is not a straight line. It's a winding, often messy road filled with setbacks and breakthroughs. But it is always worth it, because at the end of your life, it won't matter how busy you were or how much you accumulated. What will matter is whether you lived with purpose, loved well, and left a mark that outlives your time. Significance is not reserved for the extraordinary. It's the birthright of every person willing to rise above mere existence and choose a life of meaning. You don't have to settle for surviving. You can live significantly, and it can start today. For many people, survival mode isn't just a season, it's a lifestyle. It's the mental and emotional state where life becomes a series of reactions rather than intentional decisions. Each day is consumed by the urgency of needs, bills, responsibilities, and the overwhelming pressure to keep it all together. There's little room for dreaming, much less pursuing purpose or legacy. When someone has lived in this space for too long, the idea of living significantly feels foreign or even foolish. But the journey from surviving to significance is not only possible, it is necessary for a fulfilled life. And it begins with a series of small but profound decisions that shift both mindset and direction. The first and most critical step is awareness. Many people don't even realize they're stuck in survival mode. It's become so normal that they equate exhaustion with productivity and busyness with importance. But significance requires clarity, and clarity begins with honesty. One must pause long enough to reflect on their daily rhythm and admit that something isn't working. This moment of truth often feels like discomfort, but that discomfort is a gift. It's the soul's alarm clock, signaling that a deeper life awaits. Without this awareness, it's impossible to change direction because you don't even know you're lost. From awareness comes responsibility. This is where the journey either ignites or stalls. It's easy to blame circumstances, upbringing, or other people for why life feels limited. While external factors certainly influence us, they do not have to define us. Choosing to own your life, no matter how broken or complicated it looks, is an act of empowerment. It means refusing to remain a passive character in your own story. Responsibility doesn't mean having all the answers. It means refusing to stay asleep. It's the courage to say, I may not know where I'm going, but I will not stay here. Once a person claims that responsibility, they must begin to reconnect with desire. Survival mode numbs desire. In the effort to just get through the day, dreams are shelved and imagination dries up. But significance is always rooted in desire. What moves you? What burdens you? What excites you? These aren't frivolous feelings. They are clues to your calling. The journey forward begins when you allow yourself to ask, what would my life look like if I weren't just surviving? Even if you can't act on the answer yet, giving yourself permission to explore it reawakens hope, and hope is a powerful motivator. The next part of the journey requires action. Small, consistent steps that reflect this new awareness and desire. It doesn't have to be dramatic. In fact, trying to overhaul your entire life overnight usually leads to burnout or discouragement. Start with manageable shifts. That might mean setting aside 15 minutes each morning to reflect, write, or pray. It might mean saying no to something that drains you or yes to something that challenges you. Each small step creates momentum, and momentum builds confidence. With time, these tiny shifts accumulate and begin to reshape your life from the inside out. Often the shift from survival to significance demands confronting fear. Fear is the jailer of survival mode. It whispers lies like this is all you'll ever be, or if you try, you'll fail. Fear keeps people stuck in the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. To move forward, you have to call out fear for what it is, a thief of destiny. You may not be able to eliminate fear, but you can choose to walk forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it. And with each courageous act, fear loses a bit more of its grip. Along the way, it's essential to invite support. No one breaks free from survival mode alone. Isolation feeds stagnation, while community fuels transformation. Find people who are living intentionally, people who can encourage, challenge, and hold you accountable. Whether it's a mentor, a faith group, a coach, or a trusted friend, their presence reminds you that you're not crazy for wanting more. They reflect back to you the truth you may struggle to see, that your life has value and that significance is not only possible, but within reach. As you begin to walk this path, you'll likely encounter setbacks. The pull of old habits, the weight of discouragement, and the voice of doubt will try to draw you back. This is normal. The journey from survival to significance is not linear. It's often messy and unpredictable. What matters most is that you keep moving. Progress is not perfection, it's persistence. Every time you choose to keep going, even when it's hard, you reinforce your commitment to a different kind of life. Eventually, you'll start to notice something changing. Your days will begin to feel more meaningful. You'll find yourself thinking more about others and less about just making it through. You'll be more present, more intentional, and more alive. This is the fruit of significance. It doesn't always look flashy or impressive, but it feels deeply satisfying. You'll realize that even in the midst of challenges, you are living with purpose, and that purpose will give you strength you didn't know you had. The journey from survival to significance is deeply personal. No two paths look exactly the same, but all of them begin with the same choice, to believe that life can be more than it is right now. It's not about chasing a perfect life. It's about choosing a meaningful one, and that choice is always available. You don't have to wait for the right season, the right income, or the right opportunity. The door to significance is open, and it opens the moment you decide to walk through it. Living a life of significance is impossible without the guiding force of purpose. Purpose is not just a lofty idea or a vague ideal. It is the compass that points us toward meaningful direction. It answers the deeper questions of existence. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? Who am I meant to impact? Without purpose, life becomes a cycle of motion without meaning, of activity without fulfillment. With it, even the mundane becomes infused with importance, and the painful becomes bearable because it is part of something greater. Purpose gives significance its backbone. Many people think that a significant life means doing something big, starting a company, writing a book, building a platform, but significance isn't about scale, it's about substance. You can live a large life that's empty or a quiet life that echoes through generations. The difference lies in purpose. When your actions are rooted in a clear and deeply held sense of purpose, everything you do, no matter how small, becomes significant. One of the primary roles of purpose is that it provides clarity. In a world overloaded with options, opinions, and distractions, clarity is power. Without purpose, people drift. They chase what others say is important, try to fit into molds they were never meant to occupy, and waste time and energy pursuing things that don't actually matter to them. Purpose cuts through the noise. It becomes the lens through which you filter decisions, relationships, goals, and opportunities. It tells you what to say yes to and what to walk away from. In a sense, purpose simplifies life by helping you focus only on what aligns with your deeper calling. Purpose also provides resilience. A significant life is not a painless one. There will be setbacks, disappointments, and seasons of confusion. But when your life is anchored in purpose, you don't quit easily. You're not swayed by temporary pain because you're committed to a permanent mission. Purpose doesn't eliminate adversity, but it gives suffering context. It transforms trials into training grounds and setbacks into stepping stones. People who live significantly are often the ones who have suffered deeply, but they kept going because their pain was connected to a purpose greater than themselves. Another vital role of purpose is that it shapes identity. When you know your purpose, you begin to live from a place of intention rather than insecurity. You don't need to impress others or prove your worth because you are secure in who you are and why you're here. This kind of identity brings freedom. Freedom to say no without guilt, freedom to be different without apology, freedom to walk your own path, even when others don't understand. Purpose-centered people are not driven by comparison or competition. They're too busy fulfilling their own assignment to envy someone else's. Purpose also fuels passion. When you are doing what you were made to do, it stirs something deep inside. Work becomes more than a job. It becomes an offering. Conversations become more than small talk. They become moments of impact. Even your pain becomes part of your message. This kind of passion doesn't burn out easily because it's not based on hype or external rewards. It's sustained by a deep conviction. Passion makes you come alive. And when you live with passion, you naturally become a light to others. Your life becomes contagious, not because it's perfect, but because it's on purpose. Significance and service are inseparable, and purpose is what connects them. Purpose turns self-centered ambition into other-centered contribution. It leads you to ask not just what you want from life, but what life needs from you. It's what transforms a career into a calling and success into service. You begin to measure your life not by what you get, but by what you give. And paradoxically, it is in giving that you receive the deepest satisfaction. Purpose leads to a life that adds value, and a life that adds value is always a life of significance. Sometimes people believe they must first discover a grand, dramatic purpose before they can begin living significantly. But purpose often unfolds through obedience to the present. It's less about uncovering a grand blueprint and more about paying attention to what is already in your hands. What do you love? What breaks your heart? What makes you lose track of time? Where do your skills, passions, and burdens intersect? These are not random traits. They are fingerprints of your purpose. And often, the more faithfully you steward what's in front of you, the clearer your purpose becomes. Living with purpose doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it means choosing integrity when no one is watching. Sometimes it means loving people who don't love you back, staying in hard conversations, or pursuing growth when it would be easier to stay the same. But every purposeful act, no matter how small, contributes to a life of lasting meaning. Significance is not found in a single defining moment, but in the accumulated weight of purpose-driven choices made consistently over time. One of the most beautiful truths about purpose is that it evolves. It grows with you. What felt like your purpose in your 20s might shift by the time you're 50. That's not failure, that's maturity. Purpose deepens as you gain wisdom, as you experience more of life, and as your understanding of yourself and others expands. You're never too young to live with purpose, and you're never too old to realign your life around it. The pursuit of purpose is a lifelong journey, and every season brings new opportunities to live more intentionally. In the end, the question is not whether you will live, but how. Everyone breathes, but not everyone lives fully. Purpose is what turns existence into legacy, time into testimony, and presence into impact. If you want to live a life of significance, don't chase success, pursue purpose. Because when you find your why, you find your way. And when you walk in that way, you change your life. You change the lives of those around you. Shifting from merely existing to living intentionally is one of the most powerful transitions a person can make. Existing means going through the motions, waking up, working, eating, sleeping, on repeat. It's life on autopilot, reactive rather than proactive. Living intentionally, on the other hand, means choosing your actions with purpose, aligning your time with your values, and creating a life that reflects who you truly are. This shift doesn't require a dramatic overhaul overnight, but it does demand a conscious decision and a series of practical steps that accumulate into a transformed life. The first step is awareness. You cannot change what you do not recognize. Take an honest inventory of your life. Where are you spending your time? What routines have become mechanical? Are your actions aligned with your values? Many people live disconnected from their deeper desires simply because they never pause to reflect. Intentional living begins with brutal honesty. It requires slowing down long enough to observe your own patterns and ask the hard question. What are you pursuing? Why are you pursuing it? Is it worth your time, energy, and attention? Once you've gained awareness, the next step is clarity. Without a clear sense of direction, it's easy to drift. Define what intentional living looks like for you. This doesn't mean having every detail mapped out, but it does mean identifying what matters most. What kind of person do you want to be? What values do you want to live by? What kind of impact do you want to make? Write these things down. Clarity brings focus, and focus is essential for intentional action. When you know what you stand for, decisions become simpler and distractions lose their power. The third step is prioritization. Living intentionally requires making deliberate choices about where you invest your time and energy. You cannot say yes to everything and expect to live meaningfully. Begin evaluating your commitments. Are they aligned with your values? Do they contribute to your growth or drain your energy? You may need to say no to good things in order to say yes to the best things. This isn't about being rigid or inflexible. It's about being discerning. Your time is limited, and how you spend it shapes the story of your life. A practical way to implement prioritization is through scheduling your values. Many people schedule their obligations and hope their values will fit in somewhere. Intentional people do the opposite. They schedule what matters most first. If family is a priority, block out time for them. If health matters, protect your workout and rest routines. If growth is important, carve out space for learning. When your calendar reflects your values, your life starts to align with your purpose. Small, consistent acts rooted in your priorities lead to lasting change. The next step is to simplify. Intentional living isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. We often clutter our lives with tasks, possessions, and commitments that add noise but not value. Start decluttering your space, your schedule, and even your relationships. Ask yourself, does this contribute to the life I want to live? If not, it might be time to let it go. Simplicity creates space for significance. It allows you to be present, to breathe, and to focus on what truly counts. Accountability is another essential step. It's easy to drift back into survival mode when you have no one holding you to your higher standard. Share your intentions with a trusted friend, mentor, or coach. Invite them to check in with you regularly. This isn't about guilt, it's about growth. When you know someone will ask how you're doing, you're more likely to stay on course. Accountability turns intentions into commitments and dreams into plans. Another practical step is to embrace reflection. Set aside time weekly or monthly to review your progress. What worked? What didn't? Where did you live on purpose? And where did you fall back into old habits? Reflection is not about judgment. It's about learning. It helps you course correct and recommit. Keep a journal, ask reflective questions, and make adjustments as needed. Growth is not linear. Intentional living is a dynamic process that evolves with you. Gratitude is a powerful tool in this journey. When you're focused on surviving, it's easy to overlook the good. Gratitude shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to fulfillment. Start a daily or weekly gratitude practice. Write down 3 things you're thankful for. The more you notice what's good, the more you'll be inspired to live in a way that honors those blessings. Gratitude grounds you in the present and fuels your desire to live with greater purpose. Living intentionally also involves taking risks. You cannot step into a life of meaning without stepping out of your comfort zone. Say yes to new opportunities. Pursue passions you've been putting off. Start the project. Have the conversation. Change the habit. Risk doesn't mean recklessness. It means choosing purpose over safety. Every act of courage builds momentum. You begin to trust yourself, believe in your path, and embrace the unknown as a necessary part of growth. Finally, anchor your life in something deeper than success. Intentional living isn't just about personal development. It's about contribution. Ask yourself daily, who can I serve? How can I add value? Significance flows from service. When your life becomes a gift to others, you find fulfillment that success alone can't provide. You realize that your story matters not just for you, but for those who will be touched by your courage, generosity, and intentionality. This shift from existing to intentional living won't happen all at once. It's built day by day, choice by choice. Some days will feel aligned and inspired. Others will feel mundane or difficult, but the more you practice these steps, awareness, clarity, prioritization, simplification, accountability, reflection, gratitude, risk-taking, and contribution, the more natural intentional living becomes. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop surviving and start creating. And slowly, your life begins to change, not through dramatic events, but through the quiet power of living on purpose. You begin to wake up excited, knowing your time is being used well. You go to bed fulfilled, knowing you lived the day with intention. And over time, your life becomes a reflection of your values, your vision, and your deepest sense of meaning. That is the essence of a significant life. Everyone experiences pain, whether it comes from loss, betrayal, failure, disappointment, trauma, or regret. Pain leaves a mark on the soul. But while pain is inevitable, its final outcome is not predetermined. Pain can break you or it can build you. It can leave you bitter or it can make you better. What makes the difference is how you respond to it. When embraced with courage and reflection, pain has the power to become a catalyst, not for destruction, but for transformation. It can become the seedbed of purpose. The first step in turning pain into purpose is acknowledging it. Too many people suppress, deny, or minimize their wounds. They bury the past thinking that ignoring it will make it go away. But buried pain doesn't die. It festers. It resurfaces in subtle ways: anger, fear, numbness, insecurity, and even apathy. Healing starts with honesty. You have to name what hurt you. You must be willing to sit with your pain long enough to understand it. This is not weakness. It's the foundation of strength. You can't transform what you refuse to face. Once acknowledged, pain must be processed. This means feeling it, not just thinking about it. It means giving yourself permission to grieve, to weep, to question, and even to be angry. Many people try to bypass this step because it's uncomfortable. But pain that isn't processed becomes pain that controls you. Processing pain is not about wallowing in self-pity. It's about making sense of your experience. It's about identifying the lie the pain tried to tell you, like I'm not enough, or I'll never be loved, and replacing it with the truth. In this stage, support is essential. Healing rarely happens in isolation. Whether through counseling, mentorship, spiritual guidance, or trusted friendship, safe people can help you carry the weight of your past. They remind you that you're not alone. They give voice to hope when yours is silent. Often healing begins the moment someone listens and says, "Me too." Pain shared becomes pain diminished. It becomes part of a shared human story rather than a private prison. Transformation begins when you shift your perspective on your pain. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" begin asking, "What can come from this?" This shift is not about denial, it's about redemption. It's about believing that even though you didn't choose your pain, you can choose what it becomes. When you begin to mine your pain for meaning, you start to see that the very thing that once broke you may now become a bridge to others. You recognize that your story has the power to heal, inspire, and guide. Purpose is born when pain is repurposed. Survivors of loss become comforters. Overcomers of addiction become mentors. Those who experience rejection become advocates for the marginalized. This doesn't mean glorifying pain. It means giving it meaning. Your greatest contribution may come from your deepest wound. When you begin to use what you've been through to help others, your pain is no longer a source of shame. It becomes a source of strength. To transform pain into purpose also requires forgiveness, not just of others, but often of yourself. Unforgiveness chains you to the past. It keeps you reliving what was instead of creating what could be. Forgiveness is not about excusing injustice or forgetting what happened. It's about releasing your right to revenge and choosing freedom. It's about saying, you may have hurt me, but you don't get to define me. And when the pain you carry is rooted in your own failures, forgiving yourself becomes even more critical. Everyone falls. What matters is what you do after. Another important part of this transformation is sharing your story. Shame thrives in secrecy. When you begin to speak openly about your past, not as a victim, but as someone who has grown, you disarm the power of pain. Vulnerability becomes your superpower. Others begin to see themselves in your journey, and hope is born. You don't have to be fully healed to help others. You just have to be honest. Sometimes your scars are the most powerful evidence that healing is possible. Living with purpose rooted in past pain often means making new choices. It means being intentional about how you live, what you pursue, and who you serve. It means turning your experience into fuel, not for vengeance, but for vision. Many people who have found significant meaning in their lives point to a defining moment of suffering that awakened them to a higher calling. Their pain pushed them out of passivity and into purpose. They didn't wait for life to get better. They used their pain to make life better for others. This journey isn't linear. Some days the pain feels fresh again. Some seasons bring unexpected reminders of what was lost. But even in those moments, purpose is a compass. It reminds you that your pain is not wasted, that every tear, every setback, every heartache can become part of a story that brings hope. What once hurt you now humbles you. What once shamed you now strengthens you. What once crushed you now creates compassion in you. Purpose gives pain a destination. It moves you from asking, why me, to declaring, now I see. You begin to understand that life is not just about avoiding suffering. It's about redeeming it. Your story, with all its broken chapters, can become a lifeline to someone still struggling. You become living proof that healing is possible, that beauty can rise from ashes, and that significance is not reserved for the unscarred. Transforming pain into purpose is not easy. It takes time, support, courage, and faith, but it is possible and it is worth it. Because the moment you choose to rise from your pain with a new vision, your life takes on a power it never had before. You move beyond merely surviving and begin to live with impact, meaning, and deep joy. Not in spite of your past, but because of what it taught you, shaped in you, and ultimately gave you to share. In a world that often measures value by accolades, promotions, wealth, and public recognition, it's easy to assume that a significant life is built on achievement. Success is celebrated and chased. People are told to work hard, climb the ladder, build a name, leave a legacy. And while achievement can be fulfilling, it doesn't tell the whole story. The deeper question we must ask is, when all is said and done, what truly matters? Is significance found in what we've done or in who we've loved and been loved by? Achievements undoubtedly carry weight. They represent dedication, skill, resilience, and perseverance. Finishing a degree, building a business, publishing a book, raising capital, earning awards. These accomplishments reflect time and effort poured into a goal. They are external markers of success, and there is value in setting and reaching goals. They show growth, they fuel confidence, they can even open doors to influence and opportunity. But the truth is, achievements are temporary. No matter how grand, they eventually fade. Trophies gather dust. Titles are replaced. Records are broken. Even the most successful individuals eventually fade from public memory. What endures is not the impact of the achievement itself, but the impact it had on people. In this light, relationships often carry a deeper and more lasting weight. While achievements are about what we do, relationships are about who we are. They reveal our character, our compassion, and our ability to connect. Ask anyone reflecting on the end of their life what they value most, and few will talk about the size of their bank account or the awards on their wall. They will speak of people, of moments shared, of love given and received, of forgiveness extended, of time spent with those who mattered. That's because relationships touch the soul. They ground us. They give meaning to the milestones we achieve and soften the blows of the failures we endure. Without relationships, even the most impressive success can feel hollow. This doesn't mean that achievements are meaningless. Far from it. In fact, many achievements are made more meaningful when they are driven by love and connection. A teacher who builds a school to educate underserved children, a scientist who develops medicine to relieve suffering, a parent who works tirelessly to create a better future for their child. These achievements matter, not because of the recognition they bring, but because of the lives they touch. When achievement is rooted in service and connection, it becomes a vehicle for deeper significance. But relationships require intentionality, just like achievement. You can't expect deep connection if you're always too busy chasing the next win. Relationships demand presence, vulnerability, and time. They are not built in grand gestures, but in small, consistent acts of care, listening without distraction, showing up when it's inconvenient, apologizing when you're wrong, celebrating another's success. These actions might not look impressive on a resume, but they are the fabric of a meaningful life. There's also a danger in defining significance by achievements alone. It can lead to identity confusion. When who you are is wrapped up in what you've done, failure becomes an identity crisis. But when significance is tied to relationships, you're reminded that your value is not earned, but shared. People who love you for who you are, not for what you've accomplished, anchor you. They remind you that you are worthy even when you fall short. In this way, relationships become a refuge and a mirror. Consider the stories that truly move people. They rarely focus on someone's job title or income. They highlight courage in adversity, generosity in hardship, forgiveness in betrayal, and sacrifice for others. These moments are relational. They reveal the heart. They stay with us long after the details of someone's resume have faded, and they teach us something vital, that to live a significant life is not just to stand out, but to reach out. There is also a legacy component. Achievements can be passed down in the form of inspiration or infrastructure, but relationships leave a legacy of values, character, and love. A child remembers a parent's encouragement. A friend recalls kindness during a tough season. A community is changed by someone who saw and served the overlooked. These relational imprints ripple far beyond our lifetime. They form the threads of a story that others will tell about how we made them feel, how we helped them grow, and how we stood with them when it mattered. This doesn't have to be a binary choice. A truly significant life blends both achievements and relationships, but with the right emphasis. Let your relationships guide your achievements. Let who you love inform what you pursue. Strive not just to be impressive, but to be impactful. Measure success not only by what you accomplish, but by how well you love, serve, and connect. You'll find that when your achievements arise from a place of love and relational depth, they carry far more meaning than accomplishments pursued for ego alone. In the end, people may not remember all the things you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. They will remember the kindness you showed, the time you gave, the loyalty you demonstrated. They will carry forward the lessons you taught, not by words, but by example. This is the quiet, powerful truth of significance. It lives on in people, not in plaques or positions. So yes, achievements matter. Set goals, pursue excellence, build things that last, but never forget that the most lasting impact of your life will be relational. It will be measured in love given, hearts touched, and lives changed through your presence. That is where true significance is born, not in being known, but in being deeply known and deeply loved. Not in leaving a mark on the world, but in leaving your mark on someone's life. In the journey from survival to significance, many people come to realize that success, comfort, and even healthy relationships alone do not fully satisfy the deepest longings of the soul. There remains a hunger for something more, something eternal, something transcendent. This is where faith and spirituality enter the picture, not as accessories to a good life, but as core elements of a meaningful one. They provide the framework through which many people interpret their existence, find purpose in their pain, and anchor themselves amid life's inevitable uncertainty. Faith and spirituality contribute to significance by grounding identity in something beyond the temporal. In a world where people are constantly told to define themselves by achievements, appearance, performance, or possessions, faith offers a radically different narrative. It says you are valuable not because of what you do, but because of who you are. For many, this means being created by and known by a loving God. This foundational belief reframes everything. It shifts a person's sense of self from striving to belonging, from proving to trusting. This grounded identity becomes crucial when life unravels. Faith gives people a reason to keep going when the job is lost, the dream dies, or the loved one is gone. It says suffering is not senseless and that even broken seasons can produce beauty. Spirituality gives suffering context. It dares to suggest that loss can lead to deeper wisdom, that trials can form character, and that through pain, something meaningful can be birthed. Without such a lens, hardship feels random and significance elusive. More than that, faith often provides a moral and ethical compass, shaping how people relate to the world and others. It reminds individuals that life is not just about personal gain, but about service, compassion, and justice. It encourages humility over pride, generosity over greed, forgiveness over resentment. A spiritually grounded life often seeks the good of others, and that pursuit adds depth to one's significance. Greatness through the lens of faith is measured not by how high you rise, but by how faithfully you love and how freely you give. Spirituality also cultivates a sense of purpose that transcends the moment. When you believe your life fits into a greater story, one written by a higher power, you begin to see your choices, challenges, and relationships through a different lens. You stop asking, "What's in this for me?" and start asking, "What does this mean in the larger picture?" That shift changes how you live. Ordinary tasks become sacred. Everyday moments carry eternal weight. You no longer live just for today, but for something greater. Faith also provides community. Spiritual belief often draws people together in ways that transcend culture, politics, or personal history. Shared worship, shared values, shared service, these form bonds that offer belonging. In these communities, people find encouragement, accountability, and support. They are reminded they are not alone. This kind of connection nourishes the soul and creates spaces where people grow into their purpose. Within these communities, stories of transformation, redemption, and healing are not just told, they are lived. Another critical contribution of spirituality is its call to introspection. Faith traditions often emphasize self-examination, confession, repentance, and growth. They encourage people to confront their weaknesses, acknowledge their need for grace, and open themselves to transformation. In a culture that prizes image and perfection, spirituality invites authenticity and growth. It reminds people that significance does not come from being flawless, but from being faithful. They value the journey over the arrival, the heart over the performance. Spiritual practices like prayer, meditation, silence, and reflection also enrich one's sense of purpose. These habits create space for listening to God, to one's own heart, and to the needs of others. In the stillness, many people rediscover who they are and why they're here. These practices offer peace in the chaos, clarity in confusion, and strength when willpower alone is not enough. They tether people to something constant in a world that is always shifting. There's also the issue of legacy. Faith invites people to think in terms of eternity, not just the next decade, but the next dimension. It asks, what kind of impact will my life have after I'm gone? How will I be remembered, not just in name, but in influence? People of faith often live with this question in mind. They seek to invest in what matters most: people, love, truth, justice, mercy. This eternal perspective reframes time, energy, and resources. It encourages living not just well, but wisely. Moreover, spirituality gives people hope. And hope is essential for significance. A hopeless person may survive, but they will rarely thrive. Hope says there is more. It lifts people when they fall, inspires perseverance when quitting feels easier, and ignites vision when the future seems dark. Faith-fueled hope believes that no matter how far you've fallen or how much time you've lost, purpose is still possible. It assures people that even their failures can be used for good. Lastly, spirituality invites transcendence. It reminds people they are not the center of the universe. That kind of humility is paradoxically empowering. When you realize the world doesn't revolve around you, you stop living with pressure to prove yourself. You begin to live in response to grace rather than in pursuit of approval. And in that space, you are free. Free to serve, free to risk, free to love deeply, and free to become who you were truly meant to be. To move from mere survival to lasting significance requires more than strategy, status, or self-determination. It requires soul. And that's what faith and spirituality bring to the table. They restore the soul. They orient the heart. They lift the eyes. They invite people into a life that is not just productive, but purposeful. Not just impressive, but impactful. Not just temporary, but eternal. Living a life of significance doesn't happen by accident. It's not the result of mere chance or favorable circumstances. Instead, it's the outgrowth of intentional habits, repeated choices that shape character, deepen relationships, and multiply impact. While talent and opportunity may open doors, it is daily discipline that builds a meaningful existence. People who live significant lives often share specific patterns of behavior that consistently point their lives toward purpose rather than just productivity. One of the defining habits of significant people is self-reflection. They carve out regular time to ask difficult but necessary questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? What truly matters to me? Am I investing in the right people and priorities? This habit of pausing to assess gives them clarity in a world driven by hurry. It helps them avoid getting trapped in cycles of busyness that lack depth. Self-reflection ensures they are not just moving fast, but moving in the right direction. Alongside reflection, significant people cultivate gratitude. They are intentionally thankful, not just when things go well, but even when life is difficult. Gratitude grounds them. It shifts their focus from what's missing to what's present. It helps them savor moments rather than always reaching for more. This posture of thankfulness breeds contentment, which becomes a quiet strength. Rather than chasing significance through accumulation, they recognize the richness already within and around them. Significant lives are also shaped by consistent service. People who make a lasting difference are rarely focused solely on themselves. They habitually look outward. They ask, how can I help rather than what's in this for me? They see needs others overlook and respond without waiting for applause. Whether through mentoring, volunteering, leading, or simply offering a listening ear, they give of themselves in ways that uplift others. Serving becomes not an occasional act, but a lifestyle. And through it, they leave marks on hearts, not just history. Intentional presence is another hallmark habit. In a world filled with distractions, significant people practice being fully present. When they talk to you, you feel seen. When they listen, they aren't planning their response. They're absorbing your words. This presence fosters deep connection. It also allows them to savor life rather than rush through it. They understand that significance is found in showing up, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. People who live meaningful lives also embrace discipline. They recognize that purpose requires boundaries. They don't allow emotions or whims to dictate their choices. Instead, they build routines that support their calling. They wake early if necessary. They say no to lesser things so they can say yes to what matters. They do hard things when it would be easier to procrastinate. This kind of internal discipline is not rigid, it's freeing. It helps them build momentum, stay focused, and honor their commitments. Another critical habit is forgiveness. Significant people don't carry bitterness. They understand that holding on to resentment corrodes the soul and blocks progress. They forgive not because it's easy, but because it's necessary for freedom. This forgiveness extends inward too. They don't dwell in shame. When they fail, they acknowledge it, make amends if needed, and move forward. Their ability to release offense creates space for growth, healing, and deeper connection with others. Curiosity is also a defining trait. People who live significant lives never stop learning. They remain open, humble, and eager to understand more. Whether through books, conversations, or experiences, they pursue wisdom. They ask questions, seek feedback, and challenge their own assumptions. This habit of curiosity keeps them adaptable and continually evolving. It protects them from stagnation and enables them to serve others with increasing insight and relevance. Another indispensable habit is prioritizing relationships. Significant people don't leave connection to chance. They schedule time with loved ones. They follow up. They write notes, make phone calls, show up uninvited just to say, I'm thinking of you. They invest deeply in people, knowing that success without connection is ultimately empty. Their calendars reflect what they value, and relationships are always high on that list. They also practice resilience. When life throws curveballs, and it inevitably does, they don't crumble. They feel pain, yes, but they bounce back. They've trained their minds to look for lessons in the trial. They don't allow failure to define them. Resilience for them isn't just a trait, but a practiced habit. They build it through adversity, reflection, and the discipline of choosing hope even in darkness. Another powerful habit is aligning daily actions with long-term vision. They live with the end in mind. They ask, what do I want to be remembered for? And then reverse engineer their life to reflect that goal. They do not live reactively. Each step, though sometimes small, points towards something greater. They know that small acts of integrity, love, and purpose compound over time to create a legacy. And lastly, significant people nurture their inner life. Whether through prayer, meditation, journaling, or solitude, they cultivate spiritual depth. They understand that a busy exterior must be balanced by an anchored interior. Their faith gives them perspective, their spirituality gives them peace, and their inner life gives them the strength to lead and serve from a place of overflow rather than exhaustion. In truth, the habits of significant people are not glamorous. They are not often celebrated on social media or praised in headlines, but they are quiet, consistent, and powerful. They accumulate over time to shape a life that matters, a life not merely admired, but remembered, not merely successful, but impactful. In today's culture, success is often equated with accumulation, more money, more recognition, more influence, more power. But as people age, face hardship, or experience loss, the emptiness of this equation becomes more evident. Material wealth may provide comfort, but it does not guarantee peace, purpose, or fulfillment. To measure a life well lived, we must look beyond what can be counted in dollars or displayed in trophies. The truest metrics of significance and satisfaction are not found in bank statements, but in hearts touched, values lived, and truths upheld. One of the clearest measures of a well-lived life is the quality of one's relationships. Did you love deeply? Were you a faithful friend, a present parent, a generous neighbor? Did others feel safe, seen, and strengthened by your presence? At the end of life, people rarely long for one more deal closed or one more zero on their balance sheet. They long for connection, for reconciliation, for time with those they care about. A meaningful life is built on relationships, not riches. The legacy of love outlasts the fleeting comfort of luxury. Equally important is the integrity of your character. Who you are when no one is watching defines you more than what you own or achieved. Did you keep your word? Did you act with honesty when it would have been easier to cut corners? Were you kind even when it cost you something? A life well lived is marked by values held consistently, not selectively. When integrity guides your choices, it creates trust, respect, and admiration that money could never buy. Purpose is another defining metric. Did you live for something bigger than yourself? Did you invest your energy into causes, people, or missions that made the world better, even in a small way? Material success can build empires, but purpose builds eternity. People who live with intention, who align their actions with a greater vision, create ripples that stretch far beyond their years. They live not just to survive or succeed, but to serve and shape. They don't just ask, what do I want? They ask, what's needed and how can I help? Courage also plays a central role. A well-lived life is not defined by comfort, but by the willingness to take risks for what matters. Did you speak the truth even when it was unpopular? Did you choose the harder path because it was the right one? Did you push through fear to stand up for what you believed in? A meaningful life often includes sacrifice. It is rarely the path of least resistance. It requires daring to act when you're uncertain and daring to care when it would be easier to stay detached. Another key measure is growth. Life well lived is not about arriving at perfection, but progressing toward your best self. Did you learn from your mistakes? Did you seek wisdom and remain open to change? Did you strive to become more patient, more humble, more loving with each passing year? Material things rust and fade, but personal growth leaves an indelible mark on the world around you. When you evolve, you elevate not just yourself, but those you influence. Contribution is a vital factor. Did you give back? Did you use your talents, time, and resources to lift others? A meaningful life is outward facing. It doesn't hoard, but shares. It looks for ways to multiply good in the lives of others. This doesn't always mean grand gestures. Sometimes it's the consistent, unnoticed investments. A mentor showing up, a teacher going the extra mile, a stranger offering kindness. These contributions often outlast applause and alter the course of lives. Joy is also part of the equation. A well-lived life doesn't avoid hardship, but it finds joy in the midst of it. Were you able to celebrate the small wins? Did you laugh freely, find beauty in simple things, and allow yourself to experience wonder? This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is okay. It means cultivating gratitude and hope in all seasons. Joy deepens a life and nourishes the soul, helping you savor the present rather than endlessly chasing the future. Forgiveness, too, is essential. A life weighed down by bitterness, regrets, or unresolved conflict is not fully lived. Were you able to let go of what hurt you? Were you quick to say, I'm sorry, and quicker to extend grace? Did you make peace with your past and with the people in it? Releasing resentment frees you to live forward. It opens the door to reconciliation, healing, and renewed relationships, gifts far more valuable than material gain. Spiritual depth also offers a profound measure of life. Did you explore the bigger questions? Who am I? Why am I here? What happens beyond this life? Whether through faith, contemplation, or a sense of sacred purpose, a meaningful life is rooted in something transcendent. It understands that there is more to life than what is seen, and more to existence than consumption. This inner anchoring shapes how you navigate success, failure, and everything in between. Perhaps the most powerful way to measure a life is through legacy, not in the sense of monuments or institutions, but in the quiet, enduring influence you leave behind. Who will be different because you existed? What values will live on through your children, your community, your students, your friends? What stories will be told of how you showed up, how you gave, how you stood when it mattered? Legacy is not about being remembered by everyone. It's about being unforgettable to a few. In the final analysis, a life well lived is not defined by how much you've accumulated, but by how much you've given. Not by what you've earned, but by who you've become. It's seen in the lives you've touched, the burdens you've lightened, the wrongs you've righted, and the love you've poured out. It's a quiet strength, a steady faithfulness, and a legacy that whispers through generations long after your name is forgotten. To measure a life well lived is to look for evidence of love, growth, service, courage, and joy. These are the true indicators of meaning. They can't be bought or borrowed, only chosen daily and lived out intentionally. And in the end, they are what will matter most, not just to others, but to your own soul. The journey from merely surviving to living a significant life begins with understanding the barriers that keep people stuck in survival mode. Fear, limiting beliefs, and external pressures often cloud our vision and sap our energy. Overcoming these requires self-awareness, courage, and a willingness to embrace discomfort as a path to growth. A key step towards significance is cultivating mindset shifts from scarcity to abundance, from passivity to proactive living. People who move beyond existence intentionally pursue meaning, set clear goals aligned with their values, and commit to daily habits that build character and resilience. Purpose plays a foundational role in significance. Without it, even success feels hollow. Discovering purpose involves deep reflection, exploration of passions, and a commitment to serving others. Living purposefully reshapes how challenges are seen, turning setbacks into stepping stones. Emotional intelligence is essential. Those who thrive beyond survival learn to manage their emotions, communicate effectively, and build authentic relationships. These skills create connection and foster environments where significance can flourish. Taking risks and embracing failure is another hallmark. Growth requires stepping into the unknown, learning from mistakes, and persisting despite setbacks. Those who reach significance view failure not as defeat, but as feedback and an opportunity to improve. Faith and spirituality often provide the deeper context and strength needed to sustain a significant life. They offer identity beyond performance, a moral compass, community, hope, and a transcendent purpose that endures beyond temporal success. Habits distinguish those who live significant lives from those who merely survive. These include regular self-reflection, gratitude, intentional service, disciplined routines, forgiveness, curiosity, nurturing relationships, resilience, alignment with long-term vision, and cultivating an inner spiritual life. These habits shape character, deepen impact, and sustain purpose over time. Finally, measuring a life well lived requires moving beyond material success. True significance is found in the quality of relationships, integrity of character, sense of purpose, courage to stand for what matters, continual personal growth, meaningful contribution, joy in the journey, forgiveness, spiritual depth, and the legacy left behind. These intangibles endure long after material wealth fades and provide the deepest satisfaction and meaning